We are coming down the home stretch on our work with Google Sheets. Today is Google Sheets number 11, and it's about conditional formatting. And I'm going to begin by showing you this. Let me zoom that up a little bit and make that kind of bigger. All right, that should work. So this is not your assignment. I just want to show you something. I've done a little magic. I've set up some things on this this Google Sheet that I want you to see. So watch what happens here. Like if I click in a box and I put the number 1 right there, and then I'll just click someplace else or put an arrow key, or maybe over here I put a number 2. If I click down here, I put a number 3. That's not surprising, right? Look, I'll put a number 1 up there. I'll put a number 2 right there. Okay, so I'm just plugging some numbers in here. And really, I mean, nothing's happening, right? It's just numbers. But what if I go inside this little area where you see this black border? What if I go in here and I put a 1 and then I click someplace else? Oh, wait a minute. Something just happened there. If I put a 2 right here and I click oh, wait a minute, something just happened right there. And let's see if I put a 3 right there and I click someplace else, nothing happened there. What about a 4? Nothing. But if I put a 1, oh, something happened. And if I put a 2 and I click someplace else, oh, something happened there. And if I put a 1 right here where that 3 was, then I go click someplace else, or I move to so there's inside this box, there's some rules going on. Apparently, somebody, it was me. Apparently, somebody made some rules about how this works inside the box, because none of that happened out here. None of those things happened out here, right? I put a 1 out here, nothing. If I put a 2 out here, nothing. But if I put a 1 right there, and then I just hit the arrow key or press enter, but if I switch this 2 to a 1 right here, that just turned red. But if I switch this 1 to a 2, that just turned gold. There apparently are some rules working inside this box. Now, there's apparently also a boundary to the rules, right? Because the rules that didn't happen out here. I put a 2 there. I put a 1 there. None of that red and gold stuff is happening out here. It's only happening inside the box. Well, so I'm using this to introduce the idea of conditional formatting to you. Here's what happens with conditional formatting. You can make a cell look a certain way depending on what number is in there. And the only rules that I set up inside here were for 1s and 2s. If I put a 3 in there and I click someplace, okay, nothing happens whether it's just white. Or if I put a 4 in here and I click someplace else, or I hit the enter key or an arrow key, it's just white. So apparently I only have rules for 1 and 2. It appears for all the other numbers, nothing's happening, right? Okay, so that's what conditional formatting is. Conditional formatting makes it so that when you put a value, when you put a number in a cell, you can tell the computer, you can tell Google Sheets to look at the number and then do something depending on what the number is. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and just close this and get back here to Google Classroom. Now let's start to look at the assignment that you have here today. There is a help page for this, and there are going to be some rules involved. You're going to have to do a little bit of basic formatting. That's not a big surprise. We do that a lot in Google Sheets, so I'll show you that here in a minute. And then you're going to have to set up some conditional rules. Now, I'm not going to read all of this to you, but I'm going to show you how to do it in this movie. And the thing that is important on the handout, though, are these rules right here, because like rule number 1 is going to have to apply for any number that is less than 10,000. That'll make sense in a minute if you keep watching. Rule number 2 is going to have to apply to any numbers that are between 10,000 and 14,999. Well, again, that's going to make sense in a minute if you'll just keep watching. And there are going to be 5 different rules that you're going to create. And it's all right here on the help page on the handout in case you need the help page or the handout. But I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's get back over here to Classroom. Here's our sheet that we're going to use today. It's on Google Classroom. So I'm going to click it and get it opened up. And like always, I had zoomed in on that, so I'm going to zoom back. And I'm going to make my copy, right? I always have to make my copy. You all will not have to do that, but I have to do it. Let's look at what we've got here. Up here in the top part, it says Millie's Crocs, second quarter 2023. Now, this is all pretend, folks. You have to kind of imagine with me that there's a store called Millie's Crocs, and they sell those shoes, those slip-on shoes that everybody tends to like pretty well. And they have stores in all of these cities, like Evansville, Indiana, and Chicago, Illinois, and Louisville, Kentucky, and Jacksonville, Florida, and all of these cities. These are it's make-believe. Don't go out and look for it on the internet. It's not real. I made it all up. And we're pretending that Millie's Crocs has been selling their shoes, selling their Crocs for 13 weeks. If you look at this whole thing, it goes over to week 13 over there in column N. It's 13 weeks because that's 1 quarter of a year. That's the way businesses work a lot of the time. They do first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, and each quarter is 13 weeks. 52 divided by 4. All right, anywho, now what you're seeing here is supposed to be money. That's money they brought in by selling Crocs, right? And you can look at, like how's the Evansville, Indiana store doing? And you could look across the row and look at one store, or you could look at a certain week and say, oh, wow, on week 2, look at that, or on week 4, look at that, right? We're not going to do any calculating with these numbers. Don't worry. We're not going to do any of that. All right, so here's your first job. Let's get into the things that you have to do on this assignment. I would like for you, I'm going to select that. I want a little bit of basic formatting. You could use alternating colors if you wanted to, but I want a little basic formatting on this. So I'm going to do a couple of things like, I didn't really want that italic. I'm going to change some fonts. I'm going to throw in kind of a light gray fill color on that top part. And then down this side, I'm also going to change to that Coda font. This is just basic formatting here. You kind of do it the way you want to do it. I might right align those instead of having it be like that. And then maybe also, do that kind of light gray sort of fill right there. Okay. So when I say basic formatting, that's good enough. And notice that I didn't do anything in here where all this money is. Right, and there's a reason for that. If you'll keep watching, you'll see the reason for that. Okay, now, here's the next thing that is part of this assignment, and if you leave this part out, you lose some points. These numbers don't look like money right now. They just look like numbers. Well, I want them to look like money, and it's easy. So let's do that. I'm just going to select all of this all the way over. You got to kind of stretch it over here and get column N. All those numbers, select them all, right? And, I had to kind of slide mine a little bit. I'm actually working on a laptop, but if you're working on one of my computers in my lab, I think you'll be able to see all those numbers very easily. So I had to select them all. And then right up here on the toolbar, there's a little $sign button that says Format as Currency, and that is exactly what we want to do right there. It's quick and easy. All I got to do is just click it. Boom, like that. Okay, now they all look like money. Super. That is just terrific. Okay, now, here's the next thing we're going to do. This is where we get into the conditional formatting rules. We're going to make some rules that will make these cells look different according to the numbers that are in there. Okay? Now, the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to make a selection that's going to start here at B8. That's the first dollar amount. And it's going to go all the way, your selection is kind of what I just did. It's going to go all the way over to N27, which is the very last dollar amount down here. Okay, so I'm going to start here at B8. I'm going to select that. I'm going to stretch out and get, boom, all of that. Select, look at what I did there. Select all of it. It's important that you have it all selected. Okay. Good. So here we go. We're going to go to the Format menu, and we're going to go to Conditional Formatting. It's right here. This is going to open the door for us to do what we want to do. Format menu, conditional formatting. When I do that, over on the right-hand side, a panel is going to open up. And you can double check this on apply to range. This is exactly what we want it to say right here, in B8 to N27. And when I say to B8 to N27, that's a colon right there. Start at B8 and go all the way to N27, B8 colon N27. So if for some reason your rules aren't working, you can check this right here, because that's what you want it to say, B8 colon N27. Now, this is where the handout's going to come in useful. It's going to be handy, I think. All right. Rule number 1 that we're going to make is for any number less than 10,000. Rule number 1, numbers less than 10,000. All right. Well, right here it says format cells if. What did that rule just say? It's less than. All right. So it's on the list here. So I'm going to say less than. Format cells if it's less than, what was that number that I just said? 10,000. Now, when you write your 10,000, don't put in any commas, don't put any dollar signs, just put the number 10,000 right there. So look at it. It says format cells if less than 10,000, and then down here is where you get to choose what you want it to look like. You can already see it happening there. By default, just automatically, it was using this kind of light green color. All right, well, I don't want that light green color. So I'm going to make it like a red color. But you use whatever you want. It's up to you. Okay. Now you could also do things like you can make that number bold. I just made it bold. You can make it underlined if you wanted to. There's some other buttons that you can use. There's a text color thing here that you could use. So there's some other buttons that you could work with. But I think I'm just pretty much going to work with fill color, and I'll just click done. I'm done with, that's the first rule. Right, I made a rule for any number that is less than 10,000. If you go check it out, any of those numbers that are red right now that are shaded in red are less than 10,000. The computer figured it out. All right, I'll click done. Well, but we're not finished, right? Don't stop there. Now we're going to add another rule. And keep this all selected out here. Don't come out here and start clicking a bunch of stuff. You want to keep all those dollar amounts selected, and we're going to add another rule. Now let's go look at the handout again. Handout, we're ready for rule number 2. This is numbers between 10,000 and 14,999. Okay, well, let's go back here and say format cells if, I found it, is between. Right, look, is between, it's on the list. So I'm going to say format the cells if it is between, what did we say, 10,000? and 14,999. Now again, don't put commas in there, don't put dollar signs in there, just put the number in there. So if it's between 10,000 and 14,999, and then you come along here and you tell it what color you want it to be. You know, that's up to you. You do what you want. All right, I'm going to make it kind of an orange color if it falls in that range, if it's in between 10,000 and 14,999. And I'm done with, you could do other things, bold, italic, underline, text color, but I'm done with that rule. I'm going to click done. Now I'm going to make another rule, and I'm going to pick up speed here, right? I'm going to go a little bit faster. I'm going to add another rule. Remember, keep this all selected, because when I add the rule, I want this to go from B8 colon N27. That's what it ought to say right there, B8 colon N27. All right, let's hop back over here and look at the help page. What's rule number 3? Rule number 3 is for numbers between 15,000 and 19,999. Okay, well, so it's going to be is between 15,000 and 19,999. Okay, I don't really like that green, so I'm going to go with like a yellowish color on mine. But again, you do what you want with the colors. You can make a selection on colors that is totally fine. You do whatever you like. So I've got it set up, right? Format cells. If the number is between 15,000 and 19,999, I want that goldish color. And I could do all these other things if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to click done. All right, we got 2 rules to go. I'm going to add another rule. And it's still, again, we want this to say B8 colon N27. If it doesn't say that, you could even type it in there, B8 colon N27, and that would make it work. Okay. I'm going to go look at the handout. This is rule number 4. It's numbers between 20,000 and 24,999. Okay. Well, I want is between 20,000, 24,999. I don't want that green. So what am I going to go with? Gosh. I do want a green, but I just don't like that green. All right. I'm going to change the shade of green a little bit on mine, I think. All right. But you do what you want on colors. Okay, so I'm going to click done. We have 4 rules now. Look at that. And they all are for B8:N27. That's how it should be. That's how it should work. We have one more rule to go. I'm going to go back over here to the handout. And it's numbers greater than. Now be careful here. It's not a between anymore. Look what that says. Numbers greater than 25,000. All right, so greater than, found it. It's on the list, greater than. And the value that we're comparing to is 25,000. And I don't like that. So what shall we go with? I'm going to go with a blue, something in the blue family here. All right. And again, you can do other things if you want to, but this works. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done. And if you look over here on my conditional format rules, I have 5 rules. That's what's required today. You have to have 5 rules. And you can see them here. If the value is less than 10,000, value is between 10,000 and 14,999, and then between, and then greater than 25,000. And they all should say B8:N27. That's where the rules have to be in effect, right? Bingo. And so I think it's safe for me to go ahead and close this conditional format rules thing. And this is what your sheet, and your sheet's not going to look just like mine because you're going to use different colors. But the 2 things that ought to be happening here is that it ought to be pretty colorful, whatever colors you decided to use. And it ought to look like money. Make sure that it looks like money. Those dollar signs and decimal points, those ought to be there. Those have to be there, right? And the way I did that, again, was just to select all of that, all those numbers, and I just used that Format as Currency button up there at the top. Well, that's it. That's your assignment of the day right there. It's conditional formatting. You are creating conditional rules that will make the numbers look different according to what number is in the cell. Off you go.